Reflecting back over the last 2.5 years, if my relationship with Thelma hadn't been as strong as it is, we would have struggled immensely. To have a strong relationship is invaluable. We've always been there for each other, no matter what. I was diagnosed with CTEPH in October 2019. And following that consultation with David Jenkins at Papworth, I was advised that I should have the CTEPH operation, and that was performed in November 20 and was very successful. When the pandemic started and I was in the early stages of diagnosis, it was very much a worry because I hadn't realised what was going on, other than to know that I had a large blood clot on my lungs. When I was released from hospital, having had the pulmonary embolism identified, I was told to isolate, and that was in November, and then in March 20 we were told to shield. When I was given the date for admission to Papworth for the operation, it proved to be somewhat tense for us because Papworth is 100 miles away, and because of the restrictions of COVID, I knew that I wasn't allowed to have any visitors, so I would be there on my own, and after dropping me at Papworth, Thelma would have to drive 100 miles back on her own and be here on her own, not knowing exactly what was happening. Fortunately, due to modern technology, I was able to keep in touch with my wife who was at home, and our family kept in touch with her as well. We've got 2 sons and a daughter, and they were very concerned to make sure that she was okay, and I spoke to her at least twice every day. I was taken down to the operating theatre on the Friday for what proved to be a 9-hour operation, and then moved to intensive care and came back to some resuscitated condition Sunday tea time. And to my folks in church, I describe it as my resurrection. Put out one day and come back 3 days later. Throughout the whole period of the last 2.5 years, the 2 of the most important things that I worked on was trust and faith. I had to trust what I was being told, and I had to have faith in the advice I was being given. And then coupled with prayer, there was just a complete strength, and that was been the foundation upon which I've based my recovery, to be honest. And once I started to feel more able and less of an invalid, I started to look at my classic car, and so that was a good motivator and distracted from going inward about my illness. I'm poorly, I can't do this, you know. It's the big sister of the MGB, and it's in British Racing Green with chrome wire wheels, which makes it among the favourable versions of the classic cars. Having got the joy of the car, I'd like to put it to good use as well, possibly raising money for PH and Papworth. I've always had an ambition to want to do a charity drive with it. It's something I'll be looking at to do probably next year now, because it takes a good bit of planning. When we were offered the vaccinations, we had them straight away. I just accept that it's the way forward. I think because throughout the pandemic period, because I've always done as we've been advised, wearing masks when necessary and shielding or isolating when advised, I've always felt that if I do the right things, then I could be as safe as I can be. And as a result, both of us have avoided COVID altogether so far. I think the key support aspects that I've experienced over this last 2.5 years especially has been the support of my wife, because she's been at my side throughout whenever she could be. I also have a great deal of faith and trust in the NHS. because not one of my appointments was ever cancelled or delayed, and I was seen on time at numerous places, and the advice they gave me was right for me. May not necessarily be right for everybody, but it was certainly right for me. And underpinning all that has been my lifelong faith in church. But I think it's fair to say that my faith has probably strengthened in this past 2 or 3 years. Without it, I would struggle. And I find it difficult to understand where people of no faith would be able to cope. You've got to I believe you have to have faith in something, not necessarily somebody.